Hello everyone, this is Sharpshot21, and today I'm going to go through some of the software for the Voron V0, doing the initial config, although I've already done it, but I'm going to walk you through what needs to be done and how. So actually, I'm going to snap this over there. If you go onto the GitHub, or you have downloaded the full GitHub repository for the Voron V0, in the folder there is a subfolder called manuals, and one is the setup guide. That's this guy. It's going to walk you through making sure you've got your power connected. We do. It's going to walk you through configuration. That's fine. We checked all our terminals. Those were okay. They weren't perfect. I had my A and B motors switched. No big deal. Just jump the plugs around. That's fine. End stops, we can check, but those are wired as per instructions. We went through this in the wiring video. This is all your connections. Those work. Clipper is the only tricky part. And it's tricky because the config from the website isn't quite accurate. It's not inaccurate to the point that it doesn't work. It just requires a little fiddling, especially depending on what you chose for thermistors and other options. So, obviously, we have octopi already loaded. I've already connected. I'm going to disconnect. So, log into octopi via putty or whatever your preferred SSH client is. I use putty because I'm on Windows. Just makes it easier for me. Log in. We'll change the password later. Git clone, install Clipper. When you install Clipper, go into the directory, cd./Clipper, you hit tab, you can autocomplete, do make, and config, like I typed tonight. Executing that command, if I could type tonight, execute the command, it pulls up this screen. We're going to want to hit space to enable low-level configuration options. Go into the architecture, you hit space, and you hit enter. Since we are using a SKR Mini, you want to scroll down until you select the STM microelectronics STM32. Hit space to select that one. Check the processor model. It needs to be the STM32F103. 2 kilobit bootloader. It is wrong, so enter, and we want the 28 kilobit. 8 megahertz crystal is fine. USB for communications is fine. GPIO pin set at microcontroller startup. This is important because this is the one that controls your SSR for your bed. Enter. That's going to be pound exclamation PC 13. Hit OK. That's done. Hit tag over one side. So we can exit. It'll ask us if we want to save config. Hit yes. Config is saved. Then we want to hit make clean. That clears the output directory and make. Now this is going to run us through creating the binary firmware file for the SKR. At this point, I've already done this, so I'm not going to go through it. You copy it off the Raspberry Pi, you put it on the SD card, and you rename clipper.bin to firmware.bin. If you don't rename it, your SKR is not going to read it and flash the firmware. You need to make sure you rename it. If you don't, it won't flash, and you'll be scratching your head going, why isn't this working? Once you rename it, put it on the SD card, put the SD card back in, restart the printer. Now, we'll go back to our connection to Octoprint. Octoprint makes it fairly simple. We're going to make some config changes in Octoprint and add some plugins at the end of this, but for now, we're doing just the bare minimum. Get the little wrench, brings up this one. Under General, you want to tick the box that says Auto Connect to Printer on Server Start. Under Additional Ports, you want to add /tmp/printer. This /tmp/printer is the interface to Clipper. You need to make sure Octoprint is talking to Clipper, not directly to the board. If it's talking directly to the board, it won't work. We also want to go over to behavior and change it from disconnect from printer, which is the default, to cancel ongoing prints but stay connected. This one drove me nuts when I was trying to figure it out from one of my other printers, because every time it would error, it would disconnect and I'd have to go reset the board. Not necessarily what you want to do every time. The M112 is nice because it will turn off the heaters and the motors. That's fine. The log is fine. I think that's the only one that I needed to change in here. If you go into, I believe it's server. Nope. Appearance. If you go into appearance and you're running multiple Octoprints and you don't want to have to memorize which IP is for which one, you can actually put in a name. So I'm going to name this Voron V0 and leave the X's for the serial number. Now what this will do is, up at the top it used to say Octoprint. Now it says Voron V0. So we're going to leave that for now. From here, under connection, we can hit TMP printer. See, auto connect is there. We can hit connect. This will connect us to the printer. We can check the terminal. Just press this temp messages, and you'll get something like this. Now, if you're fully configured, you will get you'll just get this. If you're not fully configured, if you configured incorrectly, you'll get an error message in here. We'll go through some of the common ones. Now, I went to the GitHub and I went into putty again, and I went nano. I went back to the home directory, cd./ I went nano /printer.cfg, because that's what it's looking for, and enter. When you do this with the first time, it will create a blank page. You can copy the text directly from the GitHub and paste it into putty, and it will fill this whole thing out. You can then hit Control X, and you'll have to hit Y to save it. I'll ask you, do you want to save? Yes, you want to save it as that. From there, we need one piece of information, ls-l, and then tab completed your friend, so /dev /d tab serial tab /by id. You just hit tab, and it will auto-complete as much as it can. makes that bong, and it hasn't added another slash, put a letter in, hit tab again. That's all it's asking for. Now I only have one SKR, and it's this one. This last bit here, 34FFDA, that number all the way to the end is the serial ID of my SKR Mini. You want to keep that active. Putty is nice because you can actually scroll the putty window. It's a little bit of a problem because then you need to go back in, type nano./printer.cfg, hit enter, and this line right here needs to match the text in blue, the USB-clipper_STM. Those need to match. If they don't, your printer, the Clipper software won't be able to talk to your printer. A little inconvenient because every time you type in here, if you're bumped up like this to see it, it'll bump you back down. Not so much a problem, just inconvenient. What you could do is have it here, type it into a notepad or something over here, copy it, select the line and paste it in. Now, a couple of things. My motors were swapped. When I swapped them back, the directions were wrong. To change motor direction, all you have to do is add an exclamation point to the front of the line that inverts it. So X and Y were both moving the wrong direction once I swapped the wires for the motors. I just literally, I had the plugs backwards. X was in Y and Y was in X. Just had to swap them. That then made them run the wrong direction, put the exclamation point in, they now move the correct direction. Another thing I had to change, this highlighted line here is now commented out. A pound sign or hash is the comment. It's a T8x8 lead screw. If you order the kit from Pouch off of AliExpress, you have a T8x2 lead screw. You need to comment out the 8x8 and uncomment the 8x2. Easy enough. Another couple things. If you're using the NTC 100K 3950 thermistor from Triangle Labs, or whoever, in your heater cartridge, the config from the GitHub has it as an NTC 100K 3950. That will throw an error. It needs to match that line exactly. If it doesn't, it will throw an error. You will not get correct temperature readings from your thermistor in your hot end. That's just what it's going to do. The next one that's of a similar story, down in the heat bed option, or heater_bed. If you're using a canovo silicon heater, this line, this line that I just highlighted, is going to be commented out. Comment the NTC 100K Beta 3950 and comment or uncomment the NTC 100K Mike Golf Bravo 18-104 Foxtrot 3905 OL Lima 32. That is the sensor that comes with the canovos. The other thing, for my heated bed control, the control type was commented out, as were PID-KP, PID-KI, PID-KD. Those values we will tune later, once I get this thing printing. But it's going to throw an error that heated_bed has no control type. you need to uncomment control PID and 3 PID parameters. I believe that's it. It does include a bed leveling gcode command and where each screw position should be so that you can properly level it. It also includes a macro under print start, so you can toss print start slicer starting script. It will home all the axi, move everything away from the bed, or move the nozzle away from the bed, run your heat up, and then dump it. You don't have to use these. You can put them in your slicer config. However, if you're using multiple printers, especially multiple Vorons, and you want their startup and their print starts and their print end configs to be different, you can put them in the firmware here and put those G-code commands in your slicer. That way your tweaking is done on the printer, and your slicer you don't have to have full individual profiles for each machine. Let's see, there's a print end, there's a load filament, which is nice, and an unload filament, which is nice. It also includes, down here, all of the main thermistor types. Once you get this all set, you can go and save it. You can then go back into your Octoprint install over to the terminal tab, and then it's a simple firmware underscore restart. Type that in. It's going to go receive OK, clipper state disconnect, clipper state ready. I always like to check it with a status. Clipper state ready, receive OK. Now you can start testing your limit switches as described here. You can also check your end stops. Check your end stops first. So type a query end stops. It's going to say they're all open. Now what you do is you take your finger, press the X end stop, query it again. It's going to say triggered. Let go. Press the Y end stop, query it again. It'll say triggered. Press your Z end stop. Query it again. Query it again. It'll say triggered. If it says triggered when you're not pressing it, go back into config and invert it. Just find the one that didn't trigger correctly. Look for the line end stop pin and put an exclamation point in front of the pin number. I didn't buzz any of the steppers. We can do that here. It'll make the stepper make just a little noise, and that's okay. Now we go to homing. We can do this simply with a G28XY. Now, if this goes wrong, if your fingers are fast, you can type restart. If you're not comfortable with that, have your hand on the power switch and just shut it off. Or tap the end stop twice. That will tell it, okay, here's the limit. So we hit G28XY, send it. It moves over, it taps the end stop, it moves back, it taps the end stop, done. Now there is a chart here that goes, hey, if your motors are doing this thing, you've got a wiring problem. If your motors are doing any of these, you can invert the required direction. So say X is going forward and Y is going to the wrong way. Invert one of the motors. Say you got X and Y. That's not how it should be. X should be this way, Y should be fore and aft. Mine was going weird. Mine was doing this one down here. You flip the motors around. Now it's doing one of these. You invert both of them, and now you're fine. So stepper B is motor X, stepper Y is motor A. That's handy to have. I've not defined the home point yet. Now you need to define the home point because, oh hey, the zeroing is at the back right corner. Home is at the front left. Now, easy enough to change those. Just follow the steps. Go, once you query it all, bring up everything, and back in your config. There's a position max and a position end stop. Position max will start to go to that's the far sides of the beds. Those should stay the same, I think. Position end stop will be how much? Be, I don't know, 140 or whatever. Okay, I see what this is saying. So I misread that. You move it to the front right corner. You then query it with the M14 command. So let's, for kicks, okay, so you query it with the M114 command. So for kicks and gives, we'll query it with M114. And it tells us we're at 120, 120. We'll go over to the control page. Let's have it to 100, and we'll go 100, 100. I'll move the now we can go back to the terminal because that looks to be about the front corner of the bed. Hit M114. So 0, 0. Now what you do, because the software is configured to know that your end stops are in the back right corner and they're at the maxes for your X and Y. Z is at the minimum. You go, alright, here's my current position. Here's what my position result says. what I want to be at should be 0. That gives us the new value. Add that value to your end stops and max position, and that will offset one way or the other where it thinks the 0 point on the bed is. I don't think I have to on mine. It seems to be in the right spot. Bed PID tune, you can do that. PID tune bed, yeah, PID tune hot end. These you don't actually have to edit anything. Once it's done, you just type save config and it will update the correct thing. For Z offset, you'd want to let it run for 15 minutes. That way the bed, the aluminum, the magnet, the screws, the springs, all come up to their operating temperature. And you don't have to worry about it. You then need to home it and stop calibrate. Run to the center of the bed. Adjust the Z. And save. Now, this will assume that you've got the end stop configured so that your bed is, or that the end stop screw won't hit the end stop until the nozzle will hit the bed, if that makes sense. Or you've got a little play there, because you need to be able to home everything, and then you need to be able to get the bed closer to the nozzle. So you also need to rerun it after you level the bed. Bed screw adjustment, you can just type that right in. Move the fringe's nozzle to each screw. Set it at a zone 3 height. Paper test to check the drag, make sure it's correct. Type in accept or adjusted. If it's good, hit accept. If it needs changing, hit adjust. Adjust it. If you adjust, it will go around again. Because when you tweak one, because you're adjusting one of the 3 points on a triangle, the whole plane is going to shift. You will need to check everything again, make sure it's still within spec. Once you've done that, rerun end stop calibrate, make sure your Z is the correct position. Extruder calibration, again, follow that fine tuning is a thing. We'll go over first prints later. We will print the standard cube and default temps. That's fine. Now, we're going to install some plugins for the Raspberry Pi. One of them, Themify, I like because it lets you set a dark theme. So, back into the Octoprint window, we'll hit the settings, go down to Plugin Manager, and get more. And we can just start typing. We'll start with OctaClipper. Install. We won't restart anything until we've got them all installed. Install Themify. Octoprint terminal commands. Not necessary for that one. At least I haven't found it necessary much yet, but you guys might. This one I don't think actually works, only because we don't have a probe. So I'm going to skip bed level visualizer. And we'll also install Print Time Genius, because it is nice to have part times, print times for parts. Okay, that's closed. Those are all done. They are now in this list. And then we restart. Give it a couple of minutes to restart. And that is pretty much all the setup that's needed for configuring the printer. I do have to make a couple of tweaks to the printer because the 35 mils for offset down from the top for the rails for the bed is too far by about 5 or 8 mils. I'm going to move them up about 8 mils. That should fix that problem for me. Okay, but I want to ignore this because I'll update later. This is what happens when you get Themify installed. It goes into dark mode. You can then go into the settings, down into plugins, hit Themify, enable theme, enable customizations. I like to change the nav bar to about the color of my accents. Make sure you hit that little tick box, otherwise it won't do it. Hit save, and then the nav bar is changed. You also see there's now a clipper tab up here. This has some nice buttons. You get a status. Themify makes it a little hard to read, but hey, clipper state, ready. You can restart either thing here. There's bed leveling, PID tuning, auto done, coordinate offsets, performance graph, the e-stop macro. You can also, once you've come in and homed everything, run your printer from this page. Now that grunching noise was the tool head running into the side of the gantry and not tripping the stepper. If it does that, check your stepper alignment and check your Z-stop or your end-stop block that might have twisted. That's what mine likes to keep doing for some reason. In addition to on this page where you can control the X and Y, control the Z, control the extruder, whether you want to push or remove plastic, Turn the motors off, turn the fan on or off. So you can turn the fan on. And they're spinning just quietly. You can then turn them off. If you go over to temperature, you can manually set the tool head temperature and the bed temperature, and this graph will show you where both are at. It will also tell you what it currently is and what the target is. Quite handy. The red is the tool and the blue is the bed. Oh, and G-code viewer has a thing. But that's for once you've got something uploaded and printing. So I think that's kind of it. Oh, and because you put octoclipper in, it now changes this over here. You can still minimize that and minimize the state and the files if you wanted to. It can get pretty clean. I hope that was sort of informative on the setup. I may or may not do one on setting up Cura, because Cura has a built-in profile for Voron V2. I took that same profile and just shrunk it down on the bed size for the Voron V0. Because really, the motion control is the same, the speed should be the same. There's not a whole lot to it. So, thank you for watching. If you've got questions, if you've got comments, if you're getting errors, if you're getting stuck, or if things just aren't making sense, reach out, shoot me a message, drop a comment down below. I will get back to you. It might take me a little bit, and I apologize for that in advance. I hope you found this helpful. I hope you find it interesting. If you've ran into some issues and this helped you solve them, hit that like button and let me know down below. And at this point, I think the next video will be us pushing plastic. Hopefully we can get at least the test cube printed or something here. But thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in. I hope you found this useful, I hope you found it helpful, and I hope to see you guys next time. Sharps out. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. It really helps me out, and it lets you know when I put something new up. New videos will be going up on Tuesdays or Thursdays at 8 a.m. Eastern. And if I do decide to do live streams, I will try to give 24 hours notice. So hit the subscribe button on the channel, and you'll be notified when I post that stuff too. Hope to see you next time. Sharps out.